Hi, everybody. This is Jason Boucher from Portsmouth Parking Problems on Facebook, and I'm here with Valerie Rochon from the Portsmouth Chamber of Commerce. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'll be doing better when the sun comes out.
Yes, it's been some stormy and some wet weather lately. I think we're out of the drought and ready for summer to begin.
Ready, ready.
So we're here today, just talking about Portsmouth, downtown Portsmouth, and a few issues that we're looking to discuss today. And since you're from the Chamber of Commerce, from the Chamber's point of view, we're wondering, what is parking like in Portsmouth right now?
Well, I think we have some serious challenges with parking. I don't think that's a secret to anybody. And we have had for a number of years. And I was looking back through some information earlier today about parking, and I've been here since 2010. And I was reading up on some letters to the editor and some discussions that we've had with some of our chamber members going as far back as 2010 and 2013. Some of the reporting that we did about the lack of parking in Portsmouth. And back in 2013, when we were interviewing our member businesses in downtown, restaurants, shop owners, and every single one of them said, we need to address this issue now. And so it's been going on for a long time, and we all know about it. And we've recently done some surveys with focus groups and online surveys, particularly with regards to retail and shopping downtown. And we identified the major pain point. Surprise! It's parking. So, and I think that the city has been working diligently towards finding the solution for parking, and I feel like we've turned a corner. I feel like we are now on the right path to actually find some parking solutions. There are parking solutions on the table, and I think they're going to happen, and I'm incredibly excited about that.
That's great. So I've learned recently about a new garage that we're going to be building in Portsmouth. Do you think that the city needs more than one additional garage, or, I mean, how many spaces do we need downtown Portsmouth?
Well, that's an interesting question. It's a supply and demand, obviously, and I am not the person to say that we need another garage.
Mm-hmm.
What I am the person to say is based on the needs that we have in our community for our downtown businesses, whether they're employee parking or shops or restaurants or attractions or activities, we need more parking. We need more than the current parking that's online now or coming up. Does that mean that with the Deer Street Garage and with perhaps Harbor Corps coming online, will we have enough parking? I'm not the one to answer that. And I'm also not the one to answer whether it needs to be a garage or some other opportunity. We do know that flat parking surfaces are not conducive to a vibrant downtown. They're not environmentally friendly. They're not conducive to people moving about town. They're simply not good for a downtown environment. So would I say that there should be more parking lots? No, I probably wouldn't say that. But there are planning departments and zoning departments and all sorts of parking planning people who do this for a living and can come up with a better solution. I simply know that we need more spaces because it's an economic issue for our businesses. It is hurting our restaurants, it's hurting our shops, and it's even hurting our businesses' ability to actually maintain workers in the downtown area. So we have hotels and lodging properties who some of their employees work 1 week of every month to pay for their transportation and parking costs. That's not okay.
No, that's
not
terrible.
okay. And I think that one of the major problems we need to solve is employee parking. I think if we solve employee parking, then we're solving a large part of the parking problem. So having a garage that's not quite downtown, just a little outside of downtown, as both Deer Street and Harbor Corps might be, while they're still downtown, they would be perfect for employee parking. They're going to be lower rates. They're going to be structured a little bit differently. So you put employee parking a little slightly outside of downtown so that when our visitors want to come in and residents want to come in and shop and dine, they're right there in the downtown, which is exactly where they want to be if they can't find on-street parking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard a lot too. Well, I have friends who own businesses in town, and they tell me all the time they've had canceled reservations at their restaurants, and it's very frustrating. I don't know if you're hearing stories like that from the members.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Any number of our restaurants will say they get a call 20 minutes after the reservation was due to say, you know what, we're just not coming. We've been cycling and circling around here for 20 minutes, half an hour, and we can't find a place to park. And so we're out of here. And they're losing business. Shops will have people who won't come downtown. We found this in the surveys and the focus groups. People, many of the locals, simply refuse to come down in the summer. Nope, not coming back until the fall. That's when I'll come back. And they don't. The locals, for the most part, will not come downtown when they know it's too busy, and they know they're going to end up circling around town trying to find a place to park. So we hear this all the time from our businesses because they're getting the complaints from their customers.
And I hear that too because when I run this Facebook page, I get a lot of feedback. And what I hear is that, yes, it's the locals who leave. If you're coming from New York or Boston, you're not going to turn around and go back to New York. You're gonna park somewhere, whether it's in a neighborhood, taking a spot away from residents. But you're not going to leave. It's the people who live in Rye and Greenland and Newcastle and Kittery and Portsmouth. They're the ones that are going to turn around and go home, which is a loss to the community.
Our core business is our community. If we don't have our locals shopping and eating and visiting the downtown, then we don't have our core business because they're the ones that support us during the shoulder seasons. They are critically important to us. And if they don't feel welcome during any time of the year, then we are not doing what we should be doing for our community.
So you just mentioned it briefly, but could you tell us a little bit about the recent study you conducted in partnership with the city to assess some of the, who comes downtown and who doesn't and why? A little bit more about that.
Sure. So when the city decided, City Council approved the elimination of 2 days of the 9 days that they had allocated to free holiday parking, which is a tradition that they've been doing for many years. They determined that that would directly negatively impact our retail community. And let me back up for a minute and say that the reason that this came up is because of studies that say that free parking doesn't necessarily help our downtown merchants or restaurants, because what happens is, unfortunately, oftentimes the employees park in those free spaces, and even though the time limits are still in force, the employees will park for a few hours and then they'll go out and they'll all swap our cars like musical chairs, and the locals and the visitors are still driving around town, trying to find a parking space. And while theoretically it promotes goodwill, in reality they're just as frustrated as they usually are, if not even more so. So they're not finding the turnover, and they're not finding that the people that we want, which is those people who are spending money in the shops and the restaurants in downtown, are the ones that are using those free parking spaces. So that's a pretty standard study. So to that end, the City Council recommended that they eliminate some of the free parking. And so the 2 days that they eliminated, the City Council came to the chamber and said, we would like to take the approximate $20,000 that we would have, that we will get in revenue for those 2 days, and just simply turn it around for the benefit of the downtown merchants.
Great.
And asked us if we would administer it. And since we already have a really great relationship with the city, with a grant that they give us out of the UDAG funds for destination marketing and small business development, they asked us if we would continue on and accept this grant for the benefit of the merchants, and we said that we would. So we developed a 3-phase program for these city grant dollars, the $20,000. And the first phase is information gathering. Are we really addressing the issues? Do we really know what the issues are? Do we understand whether or not folks think that the price points are a good value? Do we understand whether or not they like the uniqueness of the shops or the diversity of the products? And so that was phase 1. And then phase 2 is education based on the information that we get from the data gathering. Let's do a second phase of education. That would be education both for the retailers and for our consumers. And then the third phase would be promotion based on the education, the information, the education. Then let's do some long-term promotion and maybe some short-term events. So We had focus groups. We had 3 focus groups. 2 of them were for locals, those within 30 miles of Portsmouth. One of them was for non-locals outside of 30 miles. We had people coming from northern Maine and Concord and Manchester, which is great, to give us some feedback. And what we learned, the bottom line is what we learned in the focus groups was that both price and value were considered good. Service and shopping choices were considered excellent. There was nothing in the okay column. In the bad column, guess what was there? It was all about parking. That was the major pain point for the focus groups.
I agree. We do have excellent shops.
We do have some amazing
and
shops.
world-class restaurants. I mean, it sounds cliche, but it's true. But yeah, the parking has always been an issue for a while.
It has been, and now it seems that we've turned the corner. We're actually doing something about it. Yay.
Right.
We're pretty happy about it.
Well, great. Thank you for that information. What do you anticipate the impact of the new Foundry Place garage on Deer Street will be on downtown businesses, on visitors, and on our residents as well?
Well, I think, as I said, I believe that the benefit to non-central downtown parking is that we can move employees outside of the actual downtown and bring them out to Deer Street and Harbor Corps and wherever the peripheral parking is. Because, as I said, I think that will solve an awful lot of the problem. Folks who are working downtown have their monthly passes. They park in the garage. How often do we see that the garage is full? And if people who want to come in for the music hall, they want to come in for the theater at night. If you don't time that just right, like right after everybody leaves from work at 5 o'clock, and before you have to go to the theater, we all, us locals, we know you got to get there just at the right time.
That's
and
right.
People try to zoom in just before 7 o'clock. That's just not going to happen. So. I think that with an increased capacities for people who live in town and want to park in the garage, or people who work in town and park during the day, I think that that's exactly how that's going to relieve that pressure.
Well, that's good. I'm happy for that, and I see that there's new businesses already where this new garage is going to be. I went in the other day to Bubby's, a nice little Jewish deli, and it's great. And I was talking to the owner. He says, I can't wait for the parking garage because I'm going to have more foot traffic walking by my business every morning.
That's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. And you look at Deer Street, you look at Port Rock Place, you look at the new Harbor Corps, you look at everything that's happening in the North End, and you know that that's going to become another vibrant part of the city. So what we're doing is we're extending our boundaries a little bit from the very core, which will remain the core, and you'll never change Market Square, and that's fantastic. It will be always what it will be. But we're extending that vibrancy a little bit outside of that core to the periphery, which are the perfect places for us to grow, and that means growing intelligently and with great thoughtfulness and carefulness, and with attention to the quality of life balance in town. And I think this is the perfect way for us to grow and continue to foster the economic development and the economic prosperity of town.
Yeah, and we were talking a little bit earlier. You said like people that work downtown, or they pay a certain percentage of their income to parking. So along those lines, what are your thoughts on workforce housing for, from your membership's perspective, which could help alleviate those costs and have people living instead of driving and parking to work every day?
Well, the Chamber has been working hard on workforce housing and workforce. The way that we look at this is that it's a workforce issue. And there are components to that workforce issue, and that's workforce housing, it's education, and it's transportation. So we don't have a great supply of workforce. As a matter of fact, this is really interesting. Prescott Park Arts Festival had their Chowder Fest this past Saturday.
Yes.
And I got a report back from the festival saying that they had fewer restaurants participating because the restaurants couldn't find workers. They don't have enough people to man both the restaurant and bring them down to the Chowder Fest. So there were fewer restaurants, which resulted in fewer people coming in to the Chowder Fest, which resulted in diminished funding for the festival. So there's this whole trickle down that happens when we don't have the workforce, we don't have workforce housing, we don't have the education, we don't have the transportation. This is the direct impact on something that all of us hold near and dear, which is that art festival and the Chowder Fest and the Chili Fest and the concerts and Mary Poppins this summer. All of that is important to the vibrancy of our downtown and our quality of life. And the fact that we don't have workforce and workforce housing has a direct and immediate impact on that. That's frustrating. We need workforce housing. We need to be working with developers. We need to be working with the town, with zoning ordinances. And Rebecca Perkins, of course, is doing a fabulous job of working on the different zoning changes that we need to provide incentives to developers, whether they be an increased height or diminished parking requirements, mitigated parking requirements, whatever it is that provides incentives, but still working on that balance. You need that quality of life balance. Then that's what we need to do to be able to provide workforce housing. And we're talking about middle market housing. We're not just talking about, people get a little concerned when you start talking about workforce housing. Is that Section 8 housing? What are we looking at? No, we're not. We're looking at young families who are growing young families who want to be able to work locally and go to be in the Portsmouth school systems. We're talking about families that have aging parents locally and they want to be able to be here and take care of them. We're talking about people who work out at Pease, and some of them are making some darn good money, and they want to be able to live locally. This is the vibrant community. They want to be able to live locally. We're talking about somebody like me. I have a large home. I want to get out of it. I want to downsize. I want to move to Portsmouth. That's not possible for me right now if I want to downsize. So we're talking about middle market housing, affordable middle market housing is what we're talking about here. And I think there are a number of opportunities for us, and I think that if we can work with zoning and planning and historic district commission, that we can come up with the solutions that allow us to have that allow us to bring workforce in, that allow workforce to walk to work, again, diminishing the number of cars circling around.
That's right.
We diminish we mitigate the parking issue if we have people who are walking and local and can Zagster now to
That's
work.
right, the new bike share in Portsmouth,
Exactly.
which is incredible. I'm so happy to see that.
Exactly. Isn't that fantastic?
That's great.
And when you drive around town now, you see that a lot of those bicycles are missing. Great.
Good.
Great. It means they're in another part of town and somebody is bicycling back and forth rather than driving back and forth.
And I've always said that, more parking and more ways of transportation and living locally also is good for the environment because there's less idling of cars and pollution and people circling, adding to, the atmosphere. So it's just another benefit there is sustainability in the environment. Also, workforce housing. I don't know why it has that connotation, but mixed income is another word I've heard, mixed income housing.
Sure.
Whatever you want to call it. I mean, Portsmouth was built on workforce housing with the Navy Yard, which we still have over on Atlantic Heights. I mean, that was originally workforce housing, and some of it might still be.
Exactly. And there are pockets of workforce housing that are in the city, but we simply need so much more, and we need to do it responsibly. And I think that there are some projects that have come before the City Council, the Planning Board. I think that this project now is responsible. It's responsible development, rather than just willy-nilly going out there and building high-rises that we can put workforce housing in.
Right.
So I credit the developers, the local developers that we have, and I certainly credit each of the departments in the city, the Planning Department, the City Council, ZBA, the Historic District Commission. They are all working to find that balance, that quality of life balance, so that there's responsible growth. And I support all of that. They're doing a great job.
So, last question I have for you. Overall, are you optimistic? No, we said we are on the right track, but do you think that in terms of making Portsmouth the best it can be, that we are going to see that in the near future, not the distant future, but in the near future? Are you optimistic that we're going to get this right and that everything's going to be okay?
Of course I am. Yeah, absolutely, because we're all working very, very hard towards that end. And I think that if we all listen to each other, if we all work together to find the solutions, then you get all of the perspectives and you're not pulled too far in one way or another. You come to the middle, you find a solution that works for everybody, and you make it work as long as we're willing to listen to each other and to find those solutions. So collaboration is the name of the game.
That's
is
right.
You know, how are we going to collaborate to find the solutions that work for all of us? Because if we don't, then it hurts all of us. And the Arts Festival is just that perfect example of that. How much it hurts all of us if we're not moving forward. If we're not, Portsmouth needs to stay on an upward curve. Because at some point in most cities, if you're not growing, then you're declining.
That's right.
And we've been on that upward curve, and we were doing that sort of at rocket pace at one point. And now we're at the point where we're taking it slow and easy and steady and doing it responsibly and the right way. And I'm totally optimistic that we're going to keep doing that, because I think that we have people in place in the city, in the chamber, and around the community that are really trying to do that. PS 21 is another great example of people who are working hard to make that happen. Good for them. So I think there are an awful lot of concerned residents and businesses and municipal folks who are really trying to make that happen.
Well, I'm optimistic as well. I see a lot of good things happening, a lot of great committees getting together, and like you said, it's teamwork.
Absolutely.
We're all on the same team. We're all part of the community, and we need to make it right together.
Exactly. I'm in total agreement with you. There you
All right.
are. We're collaborating already.
That's right.
It's great.
Well, thank you for coming in. I appreciate it. We're talking to Valerie Rochon from the Portsmouth Chamber of Commerce.
Thanks,
Thank
Jay.
you.
Thanks very much.